We're just going to give a quick minute or so for people to arrive. Welcome to our first ever live workshop. This is titled Life is an Adventure. Today we're going to talk about how you can tap into the power of the adventure mindset. And we're going to talk about that through the lens of the 4 pillars that we have here at the Academy for Adventures. And we're going to give more than anything else. We really know that your time is valuable. We really know that if you're here, we're so happy to have you. And we want to give you something practical, right? We want to give you a practical framework that can actually help to transform whatever uncertainty that you're feeling in life. If you're experiencing any resistance, and give you some actual implementable tools that you can turn everyday experiences into meaningful growth. And so that's what we're going to cover today. We've got a special Udemy course, and if you're joining today live, we're going to give you a special coupon code that's going to allow you to experience the Adventure Mindset course on Udemy. It's a 30-day challenge, and I've been working as a life coach now since 2017. I've coached thousands of clients over my time. And we took a lot of the coaching that we were working with people one-on-one, small groups, at companies, in our live workshops. And we really distilled a lot of the main message into this presentation. So what you're getting today is a very succulent mini workshop that is going to be, I promise, very, very, very useful if you implement what we're going to talk about. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so today you're going to leave with clarity, right? You're going to leave with courage, and what's even more important is you're going to have the next step. And that is where I find a lot of workshops, they kind of fall flat because they only talk about content, and content is great, like, don't get me wrong, but we also need to talk about implementation. And that is something that a lot of people don't really discuss is, well, I have all this great content. Okay, well, now what do I do with it? And so today, we really want to get your input, right? So feel free to write down any questions you have in the chat because we want to engage with you. But today, we're going to talk about what happens with life from the lens of seeing, right? So we want to have you name whatever adventure you currently have. We want you to name that. What is calling out to you right now in life? Once we name something, then we can face it, right? So we want to get you to identify what are the barriers and the obstacles that are getting in the way of the adventure that you want to have in life. And then from there, we're going to wrap up and finish with how you can actually act and choose a step that you can take within 24 hours. So see, face, and act. All right, so the mindset shift that we're going to discuss today is talking about how we can shift from a reactive mindset to an adventure mindset. Now, what is a reactive mindset? Well, you'll see a lot of people will say, well, I'm going to wait, right? It's not the right time. I'm not clear. I don't know exactly what it is that I want to do. And that same mindset typically is because you're avoiding discomfort, right? You're avoiding the uncertainties, the fears, the challenges because you just don't know. And honestly, one of the most powerful questions that I've asked clients in live sessions is, why is this happening to you? Right? Like, ask yourself why. Because if you're not certain why, I almost guarantee you, there is a reason. There's a reason why you're waiting, right? There's a reason why you feel uncertain. There's a reason why you don't want to face the discomfort. And I find that oftentimes people just don't want to sit for a few minutes and ask themselves why this is happening. So what is an adventure mindset? Well, an adventure mindset is the opposite of that. It's a life where even though you don't have all the answers, you're moving with purpose, right? And you really use discomfort as a source of information, not to belittle yourself, but to really understand, okay, I have this discomfort, I have this pain, I have this uncertainty. What is this telling me? Right? Because we were designed such that pain signals, they're there for a reason. And so oftentimes we choose to ignore it or we don't want to name it, but that is a huge mistake. And a great question that you can ask yourself is, what is this discomfort? What is this pain signal? What is it inviting me to become? And so notice the shift, right? Rather than blaming ourselves, oh, I'm lazy, oh, I'm uncertain, I'm scared. No. We're using that as a source of information rather as a source of me not doing anything about it, right? So that's the adventure mindset. What is this telling me? What is this inviting me to explore? What is this challenging me to do, right? That's how adventures go from being dull and boring to all of a sudden now we're playing, right? Now we're engaging. So that's the adventure mindset. Now, the 4 pillars that I mentioned to you earlier, this is the framework that we built our coaching company on. It is a coaching framework that we use with all our clients, all the organizations that we've worked with, and even with our own employees here, right? We really live this out. So the 4 pillars that we use to turn your experiences of life into transformation are adventure. And this has to do with you answering the call in your own life to move beyond what is comfortable and familiar to you to an actual life of exploration and meeting. And what happens when you embark on an adventure? Well, battles show up, right? You have your own fears, you have your own resistances, you have doubt. But guess what? That's the price for change. And every single time that you engage life from a position of overcoming battles, you get experience. And what do you do with that experience? Well, you use it to grow, right? And so you build skills, you build discipline, you build wisdom, and you learn to be consistent. And then when you do that, now all of a sudden, your life is more interesting. Your life is more beautiful. You start to notice things. Oh, that pain signal. Oh, that situation. Oh, that conflict. No, there's a meaning to that. And I can learn the meaning. And I can be grateful for the challenges and the opportunities for growth rather than looking at it as like, oh, poor me, woe is me. But to be able to experience a life of beauty, you have to have purpose. Right? So we're going to discuss purpose in relationships and how that plays in. So now, moving on to adventure. Let's dive a little bit deeper into adventure. So adventure begins when you stop ignoring the invitation. Now, that's what most people do. Now, I'm going to share with you a little story, right? We spent over an hour today setting up this presentation. And I cannot tell you how many signals I got. No, let's delay. No, it's not ready. No, we still have to fix this, right? But the invitation was still there for me to go live, right? So that was the call. The call to me was to go ahead and say, you know what? Despite these problems, despite these issues, there's something going on here, and I'm not going to allow it to stop me from doing this. So adventure can look like, in many ways, the things that we deal with on a daily basis, right? It's a mindset of looking at the next conversation, the next application you want to build, the next workout, the next prayer, the next creative project, a boundary you have to set, or even something as little as a small act of service as donating a couple of bucks to a homeless person on the street. Now, the call, oftentimes, especially if it's a big call, now pay attention to this. You're going to feel a surge of energy because you're tapping into the part of you that wants to do something great, but you're also going to feel that little bit of uncertainty. So let's try this now live, okay? You can go ahead and engage in the chat, or you can do it on your own, okay? What are things in your life right now that keep coming back, into your attention, things that keep coming back into your mind? Think about those things. And then ask yourself, what would matter to me if I did this right now that I would get no credit for, that no one would applaud for me? And I'm going to tell you right now that in the beginning, a lot of the things that you want to do, there's going to be no reward. And that is something that a lot of people are not willing to face because they want all the money and all the attention now. But chances are, what really matters to you, what you need to do next, is something that you're not going to get applauded for. But here's the deal. When you do that, all of a sudden, the next step shows up. So where are you at right now? What is one safe step for you that you can take that is just beyond your comfort zone? That's very important. Because if we're not willing to engage what keeps coming back to our attention, if we're not willing to understand that the next thing that you're going to do is probably not going to be applauded, we're not going to take that next step. But we can start small, right? And one of the big examples I like to share is when you start a business, right? I tell people, focus on the actions, right? Start the LLC, fill out the paperwork, get a bank account, and go ahead and be able to charge people. Cash App, Venmo, credit card, whatever. But the reason why we start with that is we need to start with things that are within our control, right? And when we do that, when we start with things that are within our control, the next step will naturally show up. And then that's when we start to get recognized. But when we do the boring stuff in the beginning that no one notices, we don't get applauded. And I'm going to tell you right now that if you can't get used to that discomfort, if you can't get used to doing things without recognition right away, you're going to stay in this cycle, right? There's no other way for me to acknowledge it. There's no other way for me to say it, that you just got to do it. You just got to go ahead and do it. It doesn't matter if anyone shows up and gives you a round of applause. And then when you do that, you're going to feel so happy, because you're going to realize, dang, I actually can do this, and I actually can make progress. So what's next? Okay? The resistance that we talked about, right? Resistance, what resistance does is it reveals to you what must be trained, right? We got to get used to naming the enemies that show up, right? A lot of times, anxiety and fear and uncertainty, they're very, very vague. It's like, oh, this is going to fail. Oh, I'm not going to do anything. Oh, I'm not actually going to whatever, right? But that's a fog, right? You have to name the obstacle specifically. Like, are you afraid of being rejected? Are you looking to offer something that's perfect? Do you find yourself getting distracted often? Do you lack a skill? Are you just being prideful? Are you just tired? Or do you just not have an unclear plan, right? So the battle plan has to do a lot with talking about what is actually stopping you. Like, if you can be specific and name the actual thing that is fighting you, you can actually make a plan and say, you know what? I'm going to tackle it this way. What actions can I take that are going to weaken that barrier, right? Are there sources of support that you can tap into, right? Like, who can support you? What can support you? And then a very important question, which is, again, something that people don't recognize, is what must I stop feeding? What are the bad habits that I have? What are the places that I spend my time in that are not good for me? And who are the people that I have in my life right now that are draining me of energy? We have to be able to name the things and the people in our life that are acting as enemies to be able to make an effective battle plan. So when you have an effective battle plan, you can actually tackle what needs to get done. And then you can start growing, right? So what does growth do? When we name the battles that we have to fight, we can now tap into this new energy that we get as courage to actually transform into a new way of living. So shrink the action, right? If you want to be consistent at something, it's a lot easier for you to take bite-sized steps. So that way the next action is visible and repeatable. So this is something that a lot of my clients come to me with. I want to change my life. It's like, well, it's very difficult to change your life, right? I mean, you're talking about a series of a huge web that is interwoven with different areas of life, different goals, different people. That's a huge monster to tackle. But if we can replace change my life with, okay, can I change a behavior? Is there one behavior that I can complete today that is going to move me forward? And this is where I want to talk about the 1% rule. We've talked about this rule with everyone that we've worked with, okay? The 1% rule is based on a few different things, okay? Typically, it's based on something that you can do in 30 minutes or less, or what I like to call 10 minutes of practice, right? So 10 minutes of practicing something that is going to move you forward. And typically, we want to just have it be one area of application, right? Or one area of follow-up. So how do we do that? So let's say you want to become more organized. So see how we went from change my life to become more organized. Okay, right? So now let's transform that get more organized and let's apply the 1% rule to that. Okay, so let's say pick an area of your room or pick your room, okay? So you say, we've identified a specific place. Okay, now we're gonna spend 10 minutes cleaning up one corner of your room, right? So we've got the 10 minutes, we've got the one application, right? So that completes that 1% growth, right? And then if you want to incorporate people to support you, you can have a conversation, one honest conversation with some person that you want to share this with, right? You can also apply this same framework to anything, right? You can apply it to reading. You can apply it to working out. You can apply it to dating. You can apply it to business. You can take this 1% rule and you can apply it anywhere, because all it takes is 10 minutes of practice, one opportunity or application to follow up, one honest conversation with someone that's going to hold you accountable, and just make a number around it. Like, I'm going to read one page. I'm going to pray for 10 minutes. I'm going to go for a 10-minute walk. I'm going to do 3 sets at the gym. But that 1% concept, you apply that. Look, if you do that for 1 year, do the math. That's 365% of growth. Now, a lot of people don't realize that because they don't think about how the 1% compounds, right? Because it does. And the cool thing about human beings is that once you start something, it's a lot easier for you to continue. Once you habit stack something, that 1% tends to become 2%, 3%, 4%, a lot faster than you think. But if you're starting from zero, this is a very easy way to get started without feeling overwhelmed. And that's why I like to talk about it with people from the get-go. So, what about beauty, right? So, you go on your adventure, you face your battles, you grow. Okay, well, what else is there to life? It's like, well, all of a sudden now, your life is more beautiful. What beauty does is it keeps your achievement connected to meaning. Now, a lot of people rush past this. But what is beauty in this context in the adventure mindset? Beauty in this context is talking about recognizing what the struggle produced, right? So what the struggle produced, okay? What are you grateful for? What did that struggle teach you? What did that adventure teach you? Do you have friends in your life? You know, are you more courageous now? Are you serving others better? What wonders do you have in your life that you're not giving credence to, right? What about your faith? A deeper sense of purpose that you have. A lot of times people, they embark on new things, but since they don't approach it from the lens of meaning, oftentimes people will just stop. They stop going to the gym, they stop talking to that person, they stop praying, they stop the business because they haven't attached that action or that habit to something that is meaningful and purposeful. So let's talk about how we can review our life, right? Let's take a look at our life right now. And I want to invite you to do this yourself live, okay? What in your life this week was difficult? Yeah, let's look at that. What in your life this week was difficult? Okay. Did that teach you something? Because chances are that difficult situation, my coach would always say this to me, every adversity has within it a seed of equivalent or greater benefit. Every difficult challenge that you have in your life has a lesson in it. There's information in it. And oftentimes, because it's uncomfortable, we want to move on from the situation. But then what happens, and this is something that happens a lot to all of us and to my clients included, is they keep making the same mistakes. Why? Because they're not learning. They're not looking at the difficult situation and saying, dang, like I made the same mistake again. But chances are there's a seed there that you're not seeing, right? And what gratitude does, and this is why gratitude is so important, is when you look at your life and you say, I'm grateful for the good and the bad and the ugly. If you approach your life from the mindset that even the bad things in life have something to teach me, even the bad things in life that I experience, there's something that I can glean from that. There's something that I can learn, right? When you do that, now you're going to notice that, oh, you know what? It's not that bad, right? Or my life is not as bad as I think. A gratitude practice is going to be very important. And then oftentimes when we go through things, right, we don't acknowledge that we have friends, we have family, we have people that we can seek help from. You know, are you asking for help? Look, for a long, long time, my company was a one-man shop. I did everything. And what happens? You know, eventually you hit a wall very quick, right? And so I said, I need help. So I got the business to a point now where we hire help. And now I have help. Now I'm not alone, right? And so oftentimes we keep our problems and our struggles to ourselves because we don't want to burden others. But here's the deal. When you have help, life becomes a lot more interesting and it's a lot more fun that way. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And if people are helping you, say thank you. But now we want to take a look at in our life, right? What is unexpectedly good? What is one thing this week that was unexpectedly good, right? One of the things that I like to do is I always like to, when I go to a coffee shop, I always like to have a short conversation with the barista. And you know what many of them tell me? It's like, you're the first person today that actually asked me how I was doing. Like, you're the first person today that actually cares about how I am feeling, right? I try to build into my routine moments of unexpected goodness wherever I go, because you never know what people are going through. And so oftentimes by paying it forward, not only does that help others, but it also helps us too, because you're like, you know what? Yeah, I can do something good today. So oftentimes if we're in a position where we feel that our life is not beautiful, oftentimes it's because we're also not creating opportunities where we can experience some of that beauty, right? And so it's up to us as well to not just focus on ourselves and the beauty that our life can have, but what about building beauty for others, right? What about sharing beauty with other people? That can make your life a lot more meaningful, and you can also use that good energy and throw it back into whatever it is that you want to do. So here's the loop, right? Transformation happens when what we reflect on becomes actions that we take. So we've done a lot of reflecting today. We've reflected on what it means to have an adventurous life, what it means to have a life where we face our challenges, what it means when we have a growth mindset and we apply 1% growth. And then we talked a little bit about how we can view life as more beautiful and how as we can help spread that beauty with others. So here's the loop, right? First of all, notice, right? Name the call and whatever resistance you feel in life without exaggeration or denial. So you can't deny it, because if there's something in your mind that is plaguing you, don't ignore it, acknowledge it, but don't exaggerate it either, right? Once you've noticed it, okay, now choose, right? What is the smallest meaningful action that I can take today that is going to create some sort of change that I can use as evidence? And then review, okay? And a lot of people miss on this step, right? Keep what worked, right? Adjust what hasn't worked and recognize the beauty of the experience of what worked and what didn't work and what it taught you. That is a loop, a feedback loop that we have to tap into. We have to tap into notice, choose, and review. So once we've done that, here are 8 questions that you can do to reset your emotional state whenever you feel stuck in anything. Okay, first of all, call. What wants my attention right now? What is my mind? What is my body telling me? 2, why does that matter? Why should I pay attention to it? 3, if I face fear, if I don't want to do it, what am I protecting? See, I remember a coach of mine told me one day, which I thought was very wise. She's like, what are you protecting right now that you're not willing to charge more for your services? And I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, no. What are you protecting? Because there's something right now that you're protecting. And I'm like, I know what I'm protecting. There was a part of me that was scared to charge more because I was scared of having to change the current clientele that I had. Because part of growing a business means that you can't work with the same people forever at the same price point. So I was like, oh, I'm protecting my current list because I don't want to lose it, because I became attached to many of those people. So that was like a big whoa moment that I had in myself, where there was a fear that I had that I didn't even realize that I had it. So then we got to talk about the truth, right? And this is what you want to do with your own fears and your uncertainties as well. What is fact, not story? Because we weave all these stories in our mind. We make up all these, we forecast into the future and we're like, oh, if I have this conversation, it's going to go that way. Or if I do this thing, it's going to end there. But the thing is that that's a story. That's not true. That's not fact. You don't know what's going to happen until you do it. And oftentimes I have seen people that will stay in this cycle of stories. They stay in that story cycle for years. I had a prospect that came to me a month ago and was talking to me about wanting to start a new career and sell the business that he was working on. But the reason why he hadn't sold the business or started a new career is because every single time that he did that in the past, it always ended up badly for him. So he became attached to the current lifestyle and the business that he had because he didn't want to go through that again. But I said, okay, but what are you going to do about it differently this time? What are you going to do so that the story doesn't repeat itself? Then all of a sudden, the conversation shifted. And now we were able to talk about actionable things and rail guards that he could set up to make sure that it didn't end up that way again. You have to be willing to try again and engage, not the past, but engage the present circumstances with the experiences from the past. You use it as information to create a different future. Your future doesn't just have to be a 10% better version of what happened yesterday. Your future is always within your grasp, but it's always within the present moment and acknowledging the truth of the matter, not past experiences only. We use those as a source of information, but not as a pure vehicle for dictating what we do in the future. And this is where the step becomes so important. What can you do today? What is the step that you could? That is one of the most powerful things that you can do, is get out of thinking mode, get out of fear mode, and get into action mode. Take that step today. Okay, so you take that step. One of my favorite questions is, who can you ask for support? Do you have a coach? Do you have a friend? Do you have a family member? Do you have whoever? A stranger on the street? You know, when I launched a project here at the company, one of the first things that I do is I talk about it to as many people as I know. Why? Because the more that I talk about it, the more energy that I get personally to do it. Some people, you want to be careful with what you share. But I find, for me personally, every single time that I talk to someone about what I'm up to, it gives me energy, because I know that next time they see me, they're going to ask me, how is that going? That's an easy way to create support and accountability in an informal way, but I strongly encourage accountability partners in formal ways as well. And then ask yourself the lesson. Okay, this mood, this thought, what is this teaching me? Right? What can I learn from this? Instead of using it as a source of self-deprecation or as a source of not doing anything, what is this teaching me? What can I learn from this? And then the last question that I know is very, very important to help reset you is, what in my life right now is worth noticing? See, right now I can look outside and I can notice the trees or the sunlight, right? And oftentimes when I'm sitting at my desk and I'm like overwhelmed, I just take a look outside and I just take a look at, you know what? Life is beautiful. Life is adventurous. And then I get back to work. Or I think about someone that's important to me and like, you know what? I'm doing this for my son, or I'm doing this for my wife, or I'm doing this because I know someone's counting on me, right? Those moments are always worth noticing. Take the time every single day to notice something in your life that is good. Don't just focus on the bad. Focus on also what's good, because that is another great secret to feeling happier and better. So now let's apply, because that's the most important thing, right? So we're going to go ahead and build your 24-hour adventure plan before you leave this live workshop, okay? You're going to declare your current call to adventure is XYZ. Make it specific enough that if you were to say it to another person, they could understand it. 2, decide, okay, within 24 hours, I will do X. Choose one visible action that takes some courage, but remains actionable and real for what you can do in the next day. And then lastly, design, right? I will do it at X with help from X, right? I will do it at this time. I will do it at this place with help from this person that I told that I need them to keep me accountable to it. And then lastly, okay, you got to figure out whatever obstacles show up. Remove those obstacles before motivation has to fight it, because there's always going to be obstacles, right? But find a way, and if your obstacle is focus, for example, then put yourself in a place where you're not going to get distracted. So that's why I configure my desk like this. So that way I cannot be distracted by other things. All I have in front of me is the camera, the monitor. So that way I know that I got to look there and do this thing, right? It sounds funny, but the more things you remove from your eyes and your ears, the easier it is for you to focus and the easier it is for you to get something done. So here's your checklist, right? Your adventure only counts when you actually enter it in the calendar. So before today ends, using a note app, using your phone or whatever, you're going to choose one action that is small enough to complete and meaningful enough to matter. Now you need to schedule that, right? Schedule that before motivation has to fight for space in your mind. So you're going to write the call, you're going to name the battle, you're going to choose the 1% action, and you're going to schedule it. Tell one person about it, and then review the beauty of that tonight after you've gotten it done. Right now, with what you've done. You are writing your next chapter. Keep the adventure going. Because you tuned in today, we have a free offer for you on udemy.com using code ADVENTURENOW, all capital in one word. You can go ahead and take the Adventure Mindset course for free, 30-day challenge, mind you. 30 days of practical prompts, all focused on adventure, battle, growth, and beauty. It's available on Udemy. Search it online right now, the Adventure Mindset 30-day challenge. Use promo code ADVENTURENOW, all capital, all one word, and you're going to get access to that course because you tuned in live today for free. We worked on this for months, so I promise you, all we ask is for you to leave a good review when you complete it. We know that it works so much that we're offering it to you as a gift because we want to honor your time, your effort for tuning in today. So go ahead, sign in for that course. And lastly, before we wrap up, what adventure is calling to you right now? Don't ignore it. Your life is full of adventures. Don't say no to your dreams. Don't say no to what matters to you. Don't say no to what gives you life and energy, because that is what's going to help you. And I know the Adventure Mindset course is going to help you with your adventure. We made it practical. We wanted it to be easy and fun to do. So go ahead, take that course, because I know it's going to transform your life in 30 days. Udemy.com, Adventure Mindset. Thank you so much for tuning in. God bless you, and we'll see you in the next